As a supervisor, I think that the first definition you should know is, what does an employee mean? An employee is defined as someone who is employed by the agency. So if the employee does not meet that definition, then that employee is not covered by this particular contract, in addition to being part of the bargaining unit. So the first term is, define what an employee is under the statute. The second is, you need to define who is not considered an employee for labor relation purposes. And that would be a supervisor, for example, yourself. Yes, you are an employee, but under the definition of statute, you're not considered an employee for labor relations in terms of if you're an employee covered under any particular contract. A management official is also someone who is not recognized as an employee. So that's one of the biggest terms that I think you first have to understand. The second term I think that's important to you is, what is a bargaining unit? A bargaining unit then basically is a grouping of employees who are represented by a union which has been afforded that exclusive rights to do that. Okay, another term that you need to be familiar with is collective bargaining. And collective bargaining basically is the ability or the right that has been granted to the union to bargain on working conditions or conditions of employment for their employees or for bargaining unit employees. Another term is confidential employees. Those employees, you need to know who that is, and it's not really what the word means in terms of confidential, but it's someone in the capacity of a management official that has dealings or interprets or writes policies that pertain to labor relations. These are just but some of the terms. Another term that you need to be familiar is, what is a condition of employment? Condition of employment means it's just that. What are the conditions that the employees have to work under? Another thing is, or you can look at that as a conditions of employment. Although the two are slightly different, they're basically the same thing. What is it that the employee needs to do, or what he or she was hired for? Those are just but a few other terms. And one last thing I think that as a first line supervisor is, you need to understand what union dues are. If an employee wishes to pay union dues, the employee can do so through payroll deduction. As a first line supervisor, you need to be able to know what form they're going to use. Get that form to your labor relations officer, or whatever the contract that we talked about. What are the procedures outlined in that? So just those are but a few of the terms that I think are important that you as a first line supervisor needs to be aware of. I think that the responsibilities of the union are pretty simple. Is they have to represent the interests of the employees. That is a huge responsibility that they have. They have to negotiate on behalf of the employees something that would be beneficial to them and still stay within the parameters of the statute laws, or any laws for that matter. That is a huge responsibility that's put on the union officials. Not only that, but to also represent them in grievances, represent them if they happen to be in some type of disciplinary action. Those are some of the responsibilities that they have to do. And they also are responsible for ensuring that whatever rights that not only that the union has, but the rights that the employees have are not violated. So it's kind of like a gatekeeper, if you would. Is they're there to ensure that none of the rights afforded to the employees, or the union for that matter, are violated by management. So I think that those that step up to be union stewards, in addition to doing their daily work, also carry that burden of having to perform these other extracurricular duties, if you would. Basically, your responsibilities as a first-line supervisor is, again, as we talked about, is you have to ensure that you follow the procedures that were in the collective bargaining agreement, for number one, but also to make sure that you look out for the interest, the best interest of the agency or of the area for which you have been selected to be a supervisor for. You also have the responsibility to engage in collective bargaining negotiations if you were to make a change that affects the employees. So in addition to the 1,000 things that you have to do, you are responsible for making sure that you follow the collective bargaining agreement, that you provide those employees who are union stewards the opportunity to represent those employees. It's your responsibility to make sure that they get the official time to perform those duties. And you're also responsible to make sure that if there's any information that they need that management might have, that you ensure that they are entitled to, well, whatever information they're entitled to, that they're able to obtain that information so that they can perform their duties.